Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, this is Altari Kinney, and we are joined again today for our continuation of our web series by Essex County Surrogate's Court. Today, we have a very good conversation with some very impactful people who are doing work in our community here in Essex County. And I want to make sure that we are able to provide you with as much information as possible. So we'll give you enough time so you can share your video. If you have Facebook, you can use your Facebook page. If you are a person that is using that like to use YouTube, actually, I have it on our YouTube page as well. So I'll give you enough time to make sure people are getting information. Let me just put my watch party on so we can share. Please share. Okay. And I am finished on my side of it. Again, good afternoon, everyone. Let me bring on one more person. Today's conversation is much different because in weeks past we've talked about the services that impact families and impact that are directly related to our office. And so today's series is to talk about providers, people who are in this work providing legal services. And we would like for you to also participate, ask questions, so they can answer your questions as much as they possibly can to make sure they're able to address you directly. But I need to introduce my co-host, Mr. DeVero McDougall. He is the deputy surrogate for Essex County. DeVero.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to thank everybody that has joined in the past. I thank you for joining us again, and for those of you that are new.
I think DeVero, can you hear me?
Can you hear? Hold up.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think I should take it off mute. So I just want to thank everybody who's joined us in the past. Thank you for joining us again today.
You're
And for the new people, I want to thank you for hopefully you'll get something out of this today. Did you? So today we have Miss I'm going to call her Peggy. She said Peggy's
I think it's your phone and your computer.
I answered to Margaret also.
Hold on.
So, can everyone hear me? Just if you can hear me, just wave your hand. Okay. Something is not happening on my side.
It's on your side.
So I want to introduce Peggy from Seton Law Clinic. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi. Sometimes people call me Margaret. Also, that's my given name. I work at the Seton Hall Law Clinic, and I concentrate in foreclosure defense.
Got it. It's my side.
We have other clinics at Seton Hall, also in family law, immigration, domestic violence, and what we call the Health Justice Project, which some of these other projects often involve things that relate to the surrogate's office as well. So thank you for having me today.
All right. Are you logged in listening to us?
Thank you. I think it's my computer, so I apologize for any technical difficulties. Let me introduce another gentleman from Rutgers Law Clinic, Mr. Charles Lafont.
Charles, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you on my phone, unfortunately.
Okay. So somebody else is gonna log into Facebook, and she's gonna keep my phone on so you can hear. I'm just trying to get connected back.
Mr. Charles, can you hear us?
Okay. Just take it. Oh, he can't hear me. Yeah. so he can hear the conversation. All right, Alpha, can you hear me now, Tariq?
I can hear you.
Yes. Am I causing feedback?
No, it's probably me.
Yes, I can.
Oh, Mr. Charles, who are you and what do you do?
Ignore the feedback.
Wow, we're in a loop.
Somebody must be watching and listening at the same time. If you can put that other computer on pause.
My name is Charles Offand. I'm a clinical professor of law at Rutgers Law School in Newark, New Jersey. And I teach in the Community and Transactional Lawyering Clinic.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Charles. So we also have we also welcome to have Mr. Jose Ortiz from Essex Newark Legal Services. Can you tell us who you are? What do you do?
Yes, I'm the Deputy Director for Essex Newark Legal Services. Since 1966, 54 years, we've been providing free legal assistance in civil law matters to low-income families and individuals in Essex County, New Jersey. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
No, thank you for participating in this conversation. So, Peggy, you've actually watched some of the web series for a while. How does your office connect to what we do in our office at the Surrogate's Court?
Yeah, so it's really been a great series, and I would urge anyone who's watching for the first time to go back and watch some of the other seminars that you've done during COVID. I think it's a really wonderful public service. And so some of the things that we've talked about over the last several weeks include, what do you do if somebody dies and does have a will or doesn't have a will? What about things that powers of attorney related to if somebody can't do their own financial affairs, adoptions? We had a wonderful discussion on Father's Day, I thought. And what happens if you have an informal arrangement and you're caring for children? Maybe I'm caring for my sister's children or my brother's children, and that works out all fine so long as nothing goes wrong. But then if my brother or my sister gets sick or can't help, sometimes I need a power of attorney. So there's a lot of small types of legal services that people need, as well as bigger ones. And it's hard, I think, for the public at large to know how to contact a lawyer if they need assistance. And so this is a great idea. Today you have me at Seton Hall, where we have lawyers and student lawyers. I'm sure at Rutgers, Charles will talk about the lawyers and student lawyers that they have there. Jose at Essex Newark Legal Services has, in my opinion, I'm most familiar with some of his bankruptcy lawyers. For example, Sharon, who I think is probably one of the finest consumer bankruptcy lawyers in the state of New Jersey, and always available to help with a difficult problem. And so, but there are other places who aren't on the phone. So there's the statewide legal services of New Jersey. There's some place called Volunteer Lawyers for Justice, which is a conduit for getting pro bono attorneys, private attorneys, to help out with things. So, I've never been accused of talking too little. So, you could move on when we're ready, but there's a lot of things that people could know. I wanted to highlight also to use your public library. So if you have a problem, a legal problem, or any, a financial, often legal problems and financial problems masquerade together, and we're not sure what they are. But a lot of times a librarian, like someone at the Newark Public Library, can help you find the way to get access to a pro bono or free legal advocate. Their librarians are trained in getting and finding information. And so they might not be a lawyer and know what the answer to your problem is, but they can help get you to to someone who can. Same thing with organizations like New Jersey Citizens Action or La Casa Don Pedro, community groups like that, where we work closely with those groups, and they will help get you to a lawyer if you need one. So I want people to be aware of those things. Also, after other people talk, we could talk about how to be prepared when you go to speak to a lawyer, because you only get a short amount of time for that consultation. And so what's the best way to present your case and your problem so that the lawyer can help you as best he or she can.
Okay, thank you. Now, Charles, what type of service do you guys provide? Charles?
Might be frozen.
Yeah, I think so. I think he might have it.
First, I want to apologize because I'm experiencing some significant audio delays, and I hope I'm coming through.
You are.
I have to say that these last several weeks are somewhat cathartic as we have this reckoning across our nation. It recalls how the Rutgers clinics came into being. In 1967, as many of us remember, the Newark, black people in Newark rebelled against the city that was really oppressing them. People died. 700 people were injured. 26 people died. As a result of that, by 1969, Rutgers law students, again led by the black law students, the few that were in the school, made demands on the institution. And the demands they made were twofold. One, they demanded that more people of color be admitted into the law school, which at the time was predominantly consisted of white male students. And they also insisted that the law school not be an ivory tower in Newark, but that it meet the needs of the community, and that real community work be done in the form of clinical education. And that was the birth of clinics in Newark, really robust clinics beginning in 1970. At the moment, there are approximately 11 clinics in the Newark Law School. Let me just list them quickly. The Child Advocacy Clinic, the Civil Justice Clinic, the Community and Transactional Lawyering Clinic, the Constitutional Rights Clinic, the Criminal and Youth Justice Clinic, the Education and Health Law Clinic, the Entrepreneurship Clinic, the Federal Tax Law Clinic, the Immigrant Rights Clinic, the Intellectual Property Clinic, and the International Human Rights Clinic. What these clinics attempt to do, and do, I should say, is provide services in those areas to the people of New Jersey, specifically the people of Newark, in all those areas. So if you're having a problem with the IRS and you're unable to afford counsel, the Federal Tax Law Clinic can assist you. Now, we're certainly no law office that operates and can serve people as the Essex Newark Legal Services can. We're primarily still a law school. and we use the clinics to teach students the law by doing real casework. But we are committed to serving the community and do so by real representation of people, especially from the Newark and surrounding area, through our clinical education.
Thank you. Okay, what do you guys do at the Essex Newark Legal Services?
Well, our highest priority, I would like to describe it in the following way: housing, income, healthcare, and safety. So our work is divided into the housing law. We do eviction defense, prevention of homelessness. We do access to decent, affordable housing. Our family and our elder law unit, focuses on safety, protecting domestic violence victims, helping with child custody and child support, legal guardianship, doing powers of attorneys, wills, and living wills. Our public benefits unit is trying to access benefits like welfare, Social Security, disability, Section 8 benefits, Medicaid. Our consumer law unit, helping those who are facing debt collection, wage garnishment, needs assistance with bankruptcy. I just want to make it clear, we have a vast justice gap. We can't meet the demand for everybody who's eligible for free legal services. So Essex Newark Legal Services, with other pro bono partners like Seton Hall and Rutgers, and private law firms, we're trying to do our best to meet that demand, but we have to do better, and the community has to fight so that we don't lose access to valuable free legal services. Right now, Your Honor, we're facing a surge coming down. There's a moratorium on eviction. Once that moratorium is lifted, you're going to see a vast increase in cases, eviction cases. You're going to see a vast increase of, right now, I'm getting clients who have never, ever sought legal services, who do not know how to navigate the safety net system. I got individuals who are still trying to get their unemployment benefits. They're still waiting. Helping those individuals how to navigate the system, accessing legal services and legal assistance is something that we're doing every day. It's much more difficult today because we're doing our work remotely, but we're trying our best, working with great pro bono partners like Rutgers and Seton Halls and many others.
So that brings me to another question. The services, is there an income guideline? What are the guidelines? Anyone can answer that question. If there are any guidelines that exist in order for me to access those services.
Well, for Essex Legal Services, Your Honor, I try my best as deputy director. I'm the one that usually gets those questions regarding intake. I'm trying to knock people in, not knock them out. We get different fundings from different sources. We get federal funding, where you generally have to be under 200% of the poverty guidelines under federal law. But we also get funding through the state, so we can go up as high as 250% of poverty. We get funding through the County of Essex and the City of Newark. And we have some discretion in that area. So I always prefer to have the person call us directly to talk about eligibility. They'll go through an eligibility screening. But we try our best at Essex Newark Legal Services to knock the person in, not to try to knock them out. There is one area that we really don't have that much discretion, and that's with undocumented families. Unless they are a victim of domestic violence or human trafficking, we generally cannot assist or help undocumented communities. But we have other partners that can, and we refer those clients to those partners.
Yeah, so one thing I think that puts off people sometimes is when they go to seek legal assistance from one of us or our partners, that they do get asked questions about their income and their assets, and they think it's nosy. And it's not nosy. It's related to our funding sources, as Jose said. Unfortunately, 200% of the poverty level is probably less than half of the median income in Essex County right now. And so even if somebody is not eligible, we do try to find ways to get them to legal service providers who don't have the same impediments with regard to their funding, or like, for example, Rutgers has also, I think, a middle income clinic, right? That's staffed by recent graduates. And they have a lower cost clinic that people can go to. I know even personally, I have taken, there's no prohibition on a private lawyer taking a pro bono case that's over the income level. And so if I have somebody who's maybe at 300% poverty, if somebody like Jose calls me up and says, Peggy, it's a pretty simple bankruptcy case. This woman's 300% of the poverty level. Would you take her case anyway? I might do that. And so I think that the best answer is to answer the income and asset questions honestly, so that we can get you to the right place that can help you.
Thank you. Charles?
He has a delay.
Is a delay?
Yeah.
Well, again, I apologize for the delay, the audio delay I'm experiencing. We share, some of our clinics share those income guideline restrictions. Some do not. So if you want to start a not-for-profit, there are no income limits for those. But as Jose suggested, we all urge you, if you need legal assistance, to reach out to one of us or each of us and see if we can help. I know for Rutgers, we're a school. So currently, until the end of August, our clinics are not operating. Essex Newark Legal Service runs all year round. We run on a school schedule, and my students are the ones who are doing most of the work. As Peggy noted, she reminds me, and I appreciate that, there is the Rutgers Law Fellows Program. The Rutgers Law Fellows Program seeks to reach that group of people who may be over the income eligibility guidelines for Essex Newark Legal Services or our clinics, and it works with them at much lower rates than the regular private bar. It's staffed, as Peggy noted, by recent law graduates who are supervised by a long-time member of the faculty, Andrew Rothman. So if you're a middle-income person not eligible for services from Essex Newark Legal Services or the Seton Hall or Rutgers Clinic, I urge you to reach out to the Rutgers Law Fellows, and they might be able to work with you.
So I have a question, and first let me apologize. For some reason, I don't know why I'm having internet problems and the Surrogate isn't, since we're in the same building. So my question, and then I'm gonna tie it back to kind of sort of our previous conversations that the Surrogate mentioned that we've been doing over these last few weeks since COVID-19. And last week we had, I think it was last week, we had a conversation about the state administration. So my question is, because a lot of times when people come to administrators, whether that's an executor or administrator, that estate may not have a lot of money. Will the individual that's the administrator or executive estate have the ability to utilize either Seton Hall, Rutgers, or Essex Newark Legal Services, whether it's for foreclosures or just family members suing the estate? Will they be eligible, or does it have to be individual applicants to apply for your services?
It doesn't have to be an individual. I mean, the executor would be, or the administrator would be an individual. It doesn't have to be that. Not every problem, as Jose and Charles indicated, though, there's not as many lawyers as there are people who want lawyers. And so not every problem warrants a full-scale litigation, okay? So if you have $1,000 in your estate, you're not going to find a lawyer generally to work for free to have a full-scale trial over that. You're going to, it's not economically worthwhile to do. But in other cases, it is. So, for example, I right now have some sisters whose mother died. There was a foreclosure, but there was also surplus funds. So when the foreclosure happened and somebody bought her house, almost $50,000 more was paid than the bank was owed. The mother didn't have a will. She's intestate. There's another sibling. So mom doesn't really have anything, and ordinarily it wouldn't matter whether you open an estate or not. But with that $47,000, I'm recommending to them that they do that. And I can't do that work myself, but I'm sending them over to Volunteer Lawyers for Justice. And my hope is that Volunteer Lawyers for Justice will be able to attract a wills and estate attorney. Like, so for example, your predecessor, Ted Stevens' partner, Edna Bow, I know has often taken pro bono cases, and it might even not even be a pro bono case in something like that, because there is $47,000. The attorney might take a small fee from the proceeds of what gets administrated. But that's a case where there is enough to make it worth it. If there was only $600 in a bank account, I'd probably be looking for some kind of pro se guide to tell you how to do it on your own, which is some of the things that you guys have done also. But it is possible to get that kind of help. In our clinic, somebody mentioned guardianships, adoptions, things like that. We've done that through our family clinic. So immigration, sometimes you have, and I don't know how this fits with you, but undocumented people, if you die, you want to send the cremins back home. You might, you want to repatriate and be buried at home. That's like a whole process that needs that sometimes needs assistance to figure out how to do that. No.
I just want to add this. When you mentioned Edna Bow, I just want to make one clarification. Edna actually didn't. I worked at our firm at that time, so Edna couldn't do it because Ted was a surrogate. So I don't want people thinking she violated any ethic rules. So Edna didn't take it on.
I'm sorry. Edna has been around way longer than Ted was a surrogate, so she's done her share. So now I heard Jose say legal guardianship. Are you talking about adult guardianship?
Yes, sir.
You guys have? Okay. So because actually Professor Font one time did the guardianship. So I just want to make people understand that when you say that, you're talking about adult guardianship.
Yes. And many times we may refer those kinds of cases to pro bono providers. In the state of New Jersey, all attorneys are obligated to do pro bono work. So we have a list of attorneys who have experience in that area, and we try to connect them to experienced attorneys, our clients. You have to understand that, we have priorities at Essex Legal Services. And like I said earlier, there's this vast justice gap. So we have to focus on what is the greatest need. We have a very high eviction rate in Essex County. So a lot of our resources go to preventing eviction. We have a very high, unfortunately, rate of domestic violence. So, most of our attorneys and our resources are going to those kinds of areas. But where we can help clients and working again with other pro bonos, we try to refer clients to those providers. If there are assets that an individual has that they can afford private counsel, those cases are probably going to be referred out to those private attorneys.
Right. And the other thing I would say is, to the extent that attorneys are watching in on this series, as well as Jose pointed out, we do all have a 50-hour-a-week pro bono obligation for the privilege of being lawyers. And in my opinion, you're not excused from that because you happen to work in nonprofit or government or something. And there are a lot of ways to do that. As they're not all big litigations. So, for example, somebody might need an expungement. They're having trouble getting a job, and they have criminal things that can be expunged. That's really a paperwork kind of thing, and it can be done easily within the 50-hour pro bono services obligation that any lawyer has. And it really makes a huge difference in a person's life. It lets them get a better job. It might let them get a better apartment. Like, there's all kinds of things that you can do that are sort of smaller bore, including helping people with intestate estates and guardianships and all sorts of things.
I'm just going to add this minor note. If anyone needs a reminder.
And it's fun. You get to, I would say that for the most part, a pro bono service is, it's valuable to the lawyer as well as to the client.
Jose, there was a question that was brought up, but it was actually not on the stream that we're talking into. It says, Asia Norton brought up, she said, how does the community fight for free legal services?
Well, you got to tell your public elected officials to put your money where their mouth is. Newark is one of the few places that have created a right to counsel program in eviction cases. There is no right to counsel in civil law matters. So, fight at your city council meetings, fight with your public elected officials to fund legal aid providers so they can provide more services to the community. So, get out there, get involved. Now's the time. It's all of a sudden we're talking about criminal justice reform. Well, they were killing black and brown people, 20, 30, 50 years ago. Why now? Because the people are making it an issue. The people are advocating for that. The people are making sure that their voices are being heard. So we got to do the same thing. They can find money to give tax credit to corporations. Well, there's money out there to provide free legal assistance in civil law matters to vulnerable populations in this country. But the people need to step up and advocate for that.
And that can come through at the federal level. So, you could definitely write to your congressman and your senator. And we have very strong advocates in Cory Booker and Senator Menendez for legal services. My congressman is Congressman Payne. Mickey Sherrill, I guess. Mickey Sherrill is in this area too. But, definitely write to those places and ask them to fund legal services. Write to Senator Sweeney and Governor Murphy, and who your assembly people are in at the state level, because they can provide funding too. We're in a very difficult, critical time. I think Jose would remember this, as interest rates are going down to zero. A very large portion of legal services, free legal services, is funded by interest that would ordinarily be earned in a trust account. So let's say you go to buy a house, you put down a down payment, your lawyer holds that in a trust account, but you don't get any interest on that. The interest on that gets siphoned out and it gets used for legal services. It's called IOLTA, interest on lawyers' trust accounts. When interest goes down to zero, IOLTA funding goes down to zero along with it because there is no interest. So when interest rates are 10%, there's money for legal services. When interest is zero, there's no money for legal services. And that's when it becomes even more important for governments at the state, local, and federal level to fund free legal services. Foundations can be encouraged to fund legal services as well. But it is a really critical need right now. And people don't understand that they don't have a right to free legal services. And I'll just give an example of why it's so important to have a lawyer. So I took a pro bono case from BLJ last year. It was supposed to be a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. But the woman, when I met with her, she had a car. And she had a car loan. It was, a Honda Civic, good car. She was a teacher's aide in a daycare. She needed the car to get to work, and she owed probably $12,000 or $13,000 more than the car was worth, and it was about a 16% interest loan. So in a different kind of bankruptcy, Chapter 13, I was able to reduce the amount she owed and reduce the interest rate and let her pay it out over 3 years, and she's been paying. When COVID came, her income was interrupted, and it took her a while to get her unemployment, right? Say everybody's a while to get her unemployment, her stimulus check, all that. So she fell a little bit behind on her payments, and the bankruptcy trustee tried to dismiss her case. And so I talked to her, and she had gotten her stimulus money, thankfully, by then, and she thought she had caught up, but she was short $22. Today was the court hearing this morning. And, the trustee was attempting to require her to do something that was legally not good for her, to make her plan take longer, to agree to let her case be dismissed automatically if she happened to be late again, both of which things were not right for her. And I was able to advocate to that and say, look, I'm just not going to do what you want to do. If you want to go to the judge and you want to tell the judge that you want to impose a penalty on this woman for $22 short over 30 months of good payment, go ahead. But I'm going to argue with the judge with it. I don't think that my client, if she were pro se, would know that she could even fight back with the trustee to say, no, this isn't fair. And so, some things look like you can do them on your own, but it helps to have an experienced advocate. And this case doesn't take me a lot of time. It's not a burden to me to do it. I met with her. I filed her case. We're talking about several hours over the course of 3 years. And it makes a huge, huge difference in her life because she's now paying $12,000 for a car instead of $26,000. She's keeping her job and she's paying her debts.
Amazing. DeVero?
So I just wanted to go back to Jose. I got a buddy named Jose. Slip of the tongue. So Jose, so Essex Newark Legal Services does a lot of landlord-tenant work, and you primarily work with the tenants, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so people can feel comfortable in the fact that they know when they deal with you, they don't have to worry about you advocating for the landlords. You strictly are going to be in their advocate and nobody else's.
Correct. I mean, we do help like homeowners that might be facing foreclosure, but we don't represent. I mean, they're not eligible any commercial landlords or anything like that.
You will probably see small, 2-family, 3-family homeowners have some problems on the landlord side now. And it will be difficult for them to find pro bono legal services. Probably VLJ is probably the best source for that now. But there's going to be coming forward a lot of room also for compromise skills and creative thinking, so that we can all get through this together. Not every landlord is a big big commercial landlord. Some are the smaller people, especially in a lot of the Newark, Belleville, East Orange neighborhoods, 2-family houses, 3-family houses, things like that.
So, and the question came to my mind, and maybe Charles and you, Peggy, you can answer this question, because most of your attorneys, or your students, are working in your clinics. COVID-19, of course, has impacted a number of people. My assumption is that your volunteer base are not inside the clinics able to do the work. Are you experiencing that at Seton Hall? Are you experiencing that at Rutgers?
I think we're doing a pretty good job, like everyone else, like you are, and Jose and everyone else is working remotely. The students actually are a little more facile than the older people like me. They were the first ones to say, all right, well, let's just use WhatsApp. We can talk to our client on WhatsApp. And so it's hard for some of the older clients who might still have a flip phone or don't have internet accessibility, things like that. But I think we are using the technology well. At the beginning of this, I said, I think that having some organization, so when you have a legal problem, it's important to try to write it down and maybe use a buddy system. If you have a spouse or a friend or sibling, somebody who you trust, to help you write it down and put it in chronological order, that's date order. So like I tell people to write out their story in longhand, or if they're not good at writing, to sit with somebody they trust and let the person take notes while they talk, and then go back and cut and paste it and put it in date order, so that you have it written out and you can go back to it maybe after a day or so and fill in some details, and try to find and put also in date order any of the documents you might have, whether they're contracts, emails, the letters, anything that you have, to put it in order and give it to the lawyer ahead of time before you have your talk with the lawyer, so they have a chance to read it and understand it, and maybe look up some things like on, so like I was telling you earlier about the woman who had the $47,000 in surplus funds. She didn't know that, but because she gave me the address of her home and her mother's name, I was able to look it up in advance and tell her, oh, by the way, your mom, is due $47,000 from that sheriff's sale. They wouldn't have known that without being, so giving the information so that people can find it is the best way. People, a lot of times I find, they don't know what's relevant and what's not relevant. So, for example, in foreclosure, I'm sure Jose sees this in tenancy as well. People want to tell you about their health issues. I couldn't pay because I have cancer, or I, had an injury or something like that. Unfortunately, that's not a legal reason to not have to pay, but there might be some other legal reason that they thought wasn't important that they didn't tell me, that I can find if they just lay out their story for me simply. So that's just a tip for being prepared to see a lawyer.
I have a follow-up question to the surrogate in terms of students. And the reason why I'm going to ask this question, because I know it was asked to me when I was a student attorney. And people need, and can you reassure people that when they come to either Rutgers or Seton Hall, that the level of service doesn't go down simply because the person that's primarily handling the case is a student? Could you explain the level of service that everybody get? And also, and Jose, you can also kind of follow, because I think sometimes people think because you go into a place like Essex Legal Services or a program like that the legal service is not going to be up to par. If you guys can reassure people when they come to you, the work is going to be done to the highest standard?
I worked at Legal Services of New Jersey for several years as well, and I could tell you that I think I said it earlier, is some of the best lawyers in these areas work in legal services and at Essex Newark Legal Services. Private lawyers call Jose Ortiz on a regular basis to ask his advice. I guarantee you that, and every other lawyer who works in his community. I supervise people. I've been working for almost 30 years in this field. Linda Fisher supervises people, Jessica Myers. I mean, the attorneys who are supervising, Kevin Kelly, who are supervising the students, are some of the most experienced lawyers in the problems that poor people and low income and middle income people have. Many, I would say the vast majority of lawyers spend their careers working on the problems of the wealthy. And they don't really know anything at all about how to get unemployment or how to, what to do about eviction. They don't have financial problems like this that require this expertise. And so I don't think that there's any, oftentimes I think you're better off with a legal services lawyer if you have a legal services type problem than you are with somebody else. So it's not what you pay is what you get in this field, unfortunately, or fortunately for that matter.
Yeah, just to add to that, if you have a heart problem, you're not going to go to a general practitioner, doctor. You're going to go to a specialist. And we are specialists when it comes to landlord-tenant law and bankruptcy and domestic violence. Our attorneys spend hours, months training. They conduct training at Legal Services of New Jersey. All attorneys that are part of a legal services program funded through the state and Legal Services Corporation, they get their training through these experts. So, my biggest problem is just when my attorneys are like at the top of their game, that's when they're trying to be rated by the private bar to try to, get them to go there. If you can make it in Newark, you can make it anywhere. So, if you have a landlord-tenant problem, if you have a bankruptcy problem, debt collection, domestic violence, family, you want a legal services attorney. We are very well prepared and trained to fight. And in Essex New Legal Services, we've been fighting to ensure full access to justice, for 54 years. So we'll advocate for our clients. And going back to the thing about the students, the good thing about the students is that sometimes it's good to have new eyes looking at situations. And sometimes what I have to do as a supervisor is to make sure that staff don't fall into automatic pilot. Okay? Look at the issue, look at it freshly. And sometimes when you get that energy from a student, that energy impacts our older staff. So it's a great combination, the new and the old. And most important thing is wisdom and experience. And when you have young energy and experience, that's hard to beat.
I see someone's asking a question about child support. Is that something that attorneys can help with? And the answer is yes. We have a family clinic. I'm sure that Jose has lawyers who work with that as well. And that's something, unfortunately, in a pandemic that works both ways. Sometimes you need your child support, and sometimes you can't pay your child support for a variety of reasons. So it's there's a need for that on both sides, the payer and the recipient.
Charles? Would you like to also share? Well, I think he's froze again. Just when it was getting good. So, there was a couple of questions that was asked as well. And I know Jose made a very good assessment, that when we come out of this pandemic, about, the crisis that, or this new wave of different issues that are going to come out. Evictions is one of them. Mr. Wheeler asked about child support. Are there any other things that you can foresee that will come out, that's going to be in terms of a critical service that will be relied upon, that you think that you can provide those services to?
Well, just to say one thing, Your Honor, and this is even before the COVID-19,
Okay.
the baby boomers. You're starting to see a lot of individuals who are having diminished capacity. And that affects many areas. I get a lot of landlord-tenant cases where, individuals are being evicted and, the person suffering from diminished capacity or mental disability. And, as an attorney, I can't serve as a guardian also. The court needs to appoint a guardian or a guardian ad litem to be able to go forward with the proceedings. But many times those individuals who are suffering from that diminished capacity are not able to access the services. So, it's very important, because I think we're going to see it more going down the road, that family members, neighbors, organizations that serve the elderly, if you see cases of diminished capacity, seek that help. Seek that help, through Essex New Legal Services, the law clinics. There's adult protective services, so that these individuals are not made homeless, do not suffer. So it's very important that those individuals access help, because there is help out there, but sometimes we just don't know how to access that help.
Yeah, I'm expecting that there'll be a lot of problems with medical debt collection and debt collection in general. And also, as I was mentioning earlier, the car loans. I mean, it's not like when I was a kid, you did a lot of buying a used car from your neighbor for money that you could save up from your job at McDonald's. You can't do that anymore. Now people are buying at lots, and they're financing for very high interest rates. And that's something that can be addressed in bankruptcy. But one thing that's really important is for people to, even when they're so nervous, as many people are right now, they have to check their mail and have to save their mail, and open their mail, even if it looks like junk mail. You got to open the mail. And so I have a couple of a little trick that I ask people to do if they're especially nervous. Just hang a bag on the doorknob near where they bring in the mail. And even if they can't bring themselves to open it, at least save it. And I've opened many a bag of mail together with someone just to help them get over that hump. The other thing is, if you get a little orange slip that says certified mail came to you, you have to go pick it up. It doesn't mean, just because you don't go get it, doesn't mean that it wasn't delivered to you. It counts as having been delivered to you when you get the little slip of paper. And so, and that's hard for people right now because post offices are open at different times. But you don't want default judgments get entered very, very quickly, and it's a lot more work for a lawyer to try to unravel that than it is to nip it in the bud when it first happens. So really pay attention to the mail, and also the certified mail.
Can you explain default judgment to the folks out there?
Yeah, so default judgment is that when somebody files a lawsuit against you, and for certain kinds of lawsuits, all they have to do is mail you something. If you don't answer in a period of time, they can go ahead and get a judgment against you. And a judgment means they can take action to garnish your wage, levy your bank account, put a lien against your house or your car or any other assets that you own. And it's hard to unravel. And so answering things when they first come up is really the best way. And with medical debt in particular, there's sort of this gap, right? In between when your insurance, if you have insurance, pays the hospital, and so hospitals and doctors are often now selling off their debt to debt collectors within 90 days of when you got services. And that's not as soon as your insurance might have paid. And so, you might look at it and think, oh, I don't know that I have good insurance from my job. And so you ignore the bill, but you can't do that. You really have to pay attention. Steve. What are you gonna do?
Hello, sir. This is the area that we're in. Yeah, at least he's right. Yeah, we've seen this.
Right.
So I know we were about 5 minutes before the end of our program, and I know some specific questions Devera wanted to ask, and I wanted to give him an opportunity to ask those specific questions regarding your services. I know we over the past few weeks we've been talking about administrations, guardianships, wills, those sort of things. Do you provide those services, and what does someone need to bring in order for them to, let's say, a will? Do you provide services to help someone craft a will? And if so, is it done at pro bono? Is it a low cost, or it depends on who that person is, or in terms of the estate amount? Can you give some clarification of that?
Do you want to take that first, Jose?
Yeah, okay. So for the elderly, we do provide assistance in preparing wills and living wills. So if they're over 60 years old, we do attorneys assist them in-house. It's for free. They don't have to pay anything. They just have to meet our eligibility guidelines. And they'll fill out a questionnaire with questions regarding their estate and information on what they need to bring. Right now, we're all working remotely, but there are special appointments given to clients who are not able to do it remotely. And you can just call us and reach out to us regarding that.
So at Seton Hall in the family law clinic, I don't think they draft wills, but they will do things like powers of attorney, adoptions. I think Devero helped Jessica Miles maybe with something like that in the last year or so. That was very that she very much appreciated. We have another clinic called the Health Justice Clinic, and they typically encounter their patients through a hospital or through a hospitalization. And that clinic does draft wills, powers of attorney, things like that. But we don't have like a will drafting clinic per se. Usually those kinds of matters come up for us in our clinics attendant to something else. So you come to me because you're getting eviction and I find out that your mother died intestate and you need administration. I'll help you find that. I think VLJ is a good place to do that, but also frankly for small matters, a community lawyer would probably do something like that for a reasonable fee. And not everything is a free lawyer. Some things are worth paying a little bit for, and so there are small community lawyers, solo practitioners in your areas. Maybe you know them through your church or through your your sports organizations, fraternity brothers, sorority sisters, things like that. That are places to go to get reasonably priced legal services.
And Jose, you also said earlier, just wanted to confirm, and Essex Newark Legal Services will help out with adult guardianship as well.
Correct.
And I know Charles Afon is not here. I think he named off what some of the clinics do. I will say that the Surrogate Court has worked with Rutgers with adult guardianship, with I'm not sure if they have adoption. I know Seton Hall definitely does adoptions, but anything with state planning, they don't really have that, but they have been working with us in the past. The surrogate and I have been trying to get them on board to go out to the community and help do wills and durable power of attorney. So that's a program we're still working on with Rutgers. I will say that we don't talk much about it, but there's something, individuals, when they pass away, they don't have a loved one to care for them. The bodies go to the ME's office and they remain there. Well, in the past, Rutgers have stepped up and became the administrator to make sure people have gotten buried, because they might have had prearranged funeral arrangements, and they went to the house and found out and made sure they got buried by their family members. I talked to, Peggy and I kind of had a brief little conversation via social media that Seton Hall is willing to do that when the need steps up. But it's important that everybody plans, because the last thing we'd like to see is people getting buried, in essence, indigent burials, and not getting the proper respect and dignity that they should. So plan properly to ensure that you and your loved ones get the proper burial and get the dignity they deserve in death that they may not have gotten in life as well. So I just wanted to point that out, only because I spoke to the lady named Keisha Burnett, who's Essex County Morgue Keeper, and she developed a plan here in Essex County to make sure that bodies do not stay at the ME's office for 2-3 years at a time, and they get buried on a regular basis. That's all about planning. And she's actually in the process of working with the state to make sure each county has something similar to that. So I'm happy to say, on behalf of the County of Essex, we make sure that our family and friends get buried and don't sit in the morgue for years at a time, because people, and unfortunate, and sometimes you can understand, lose track or have fallen out with family members, but nobody should sit in the ME's office for years at a time. So we do, in Essex County, we do make sure that with our morgue keeper, Keisha Burnett, and hopefully, she's going to be part of the leadership that makes sure that happens throughout the state of New Jersey. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I found that out yesterday that she's going to be on a committee to make sure that more morgue keepers, and they might change the title, because I know it sounds morbid. You think of crypt keeper and stuff like that, but it's an important job that she does, and hopefully that we can help her here in the Surrogate's Court when we can. And if anybody I appreciate Peggy volunteering herself and her students whenever we can work out, and Rutgers does it. And I'm sure that Essex Newark Legal Services will help out, because Felipe Chavana, who's the executive director there at Essex Newark Legal Services, have worked with us in the past when we went out to the public. So we definitely appreciate all the help that you've given us here at the Surrogate's Court. And we want to thank you in advance for all the work that you're going to help us with in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I think the key, you hit it on the nose. The key is community education. It's partnership, working together. Sometimes I have individual clients that come and say, just tell me how to navigate the system, and I can do it on my own. So some individuals, all they need is education. Others might need a little bit more hand-holding. But working together as a team, we can accomplish a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jose. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It was a great to participate with you, and I really enjoyed the series. It sounds like we have one coming up on indigent burial. Maybe we could include, with that, I would say include some of the great funeral directors in our community, like Martin's Funeral Home in Montclair has been very helpful.
Else?
Listen, funeral directors are like unsung heroes. They really are. They really know a lot about. They know a lot about your death benefit, whether you were a veteran. Like they know a lot, and it's worth having them on.
So Devera, I think we have a mission. Maybe not next week, because I know we have something planned for next week, but the following week, I think we're going to have a conversation about indigenous burials, and we also need to invite the gentleman from Martin's. Is that correct?
Yeah, he might curse me for it, but Martin's Funeral Home has helped bury some people, and I was very impressed with their compassion and their knowledge.
Thank you. We are definitely going to create a new plan for that, because I know that's the conversation that we wanted to have. Inviting some of our people from the funeral homes to give some direction as to how to plan going forward. I know we're wrapping up. I know we're a little bit over. I wanted to personally thank you on behalf of Essex County Surrogate's office, for participating in these conversations, to making yourself available, to ensure that the public has the information they need, and also have access to you, the service providers, to ensure that they get the services that they're entitled to. And but also I wanted to thank you for the years of service that you do. I'm sure thank you is not enough, but I want to say thank you because you do a labor of love. You provide services to people who need it, who are looking for direction, and you provide great information and great advice. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Ready. Bye-bye. Have a nice
Bye-bye.
day.
You
Take
too.
care.
Bye-bye.